Hey, 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 everybody. It's your girl, Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Film Critic. Welcome back to another episode of the Curvy Film Critic with Carla Renata. If this is your first time joining me, please give me a big old thumbs up to let me know that you were here, that you are here, rather, I meant to say. And subscribe to the channel. And yeah, so that you can get those notifications, click that bell. All right, so here we go. Now I have a different background behind me. My lighting's a little busted. I'll figure it out eventually. But I am in Arkansas, like I told y'all. I am out of town at the moment, so I'm kind of trying to play around and work with what my setup situation is going to be for the next 6 weeks or so. But I got so many interviews for y'all today. I have 4 cast members from the musical Come From Away, which went back to Broadway this week, and then the movie version of it debuted on Apple TV Plus right in time for 9/11. I'll talk about that a little bit. And speaking of 9/11, it's always so heartbreaking when that time of the year rolls around. But again, I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. I have the director from Come From Away. I have the directors from Dear Evan Hansen, which premiered, was the opening film at the Toronto International Film Festival, which I'm also covering. I also have an interview with Talia Bridges McMahon, who is the director for My Name is Polly Murray. You've heard me talk about that. I've seen that at a couple of film festivals. And I have interviews with my Superstore fam, Lauren Ash, John Barinholtz and his brother Ike Barinholtz, Rory O'Malley, and I'm going to put up later the creators of the show, Katie. I'll put their stuff up on YouTube because these interviews are going to take up the entire half hour, and I'm not going to do Around the Curve today either because I want you guys to savor each and every last moment of these interviews that I have for you today. So let me just say hi to the people in the chat room. I've got Brandon, who's always here. He's talking to me about What If. I know, I saw What If. He's talking to me about Ron Gone Wrong. I'm actually going to review Ron's Gone Wrong next week because I just really didn't have the time to include that interview this week. Or I may just put it up on YouTube and send a notification out about that. But there we go. So let me talk to you about the Toronto International Film Festival real quick. It is in full swing, y'all, and it is going. It is it's a lot of films. I was fortunate enough to see a good portion of them before the festival went up. Thank goodness, because I kind of don't have too much time to see it now, but it's up and going right now. It'll be going through September 18th, like I've said before. And there's so many films that are going to play. But I wanted to make you aware real quick that next week, I just want to tell you up front, next week, I have the stars of Blue Bayou, Justin Chan and Alicia Vikander, the Academy Award winning Alicia Vikander. And I have the star of The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Miss Jessica Chastain. All right, so let's get into these interviews, shall we? Hi, Kenneth. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you. Okay, so let's get into these interviews, shall we? The first interview I have coming up is, like I said, I talk with the cast of Come From Away. So Come From Away is a musical that deals with these Newfoundlanders who took in a plane full of people that were derailed and stopped from getting back to their homes on 9/11 for obvious reasons when the terrorist attack happened. But what these people discovered from New York is that there is a kindness and a warmth that exists in other parts of the world that, you know, some New Yorkers were not privy to up until that point. So the first interview is going to be with Patrina Bromley, Jen Colella, who won the Tony Award for Come From Away, and Tony LePage. I'll just say LePage because that just sounds fancier. So take a look and a listen to this conversation with some of the cast members from Come From Away. And I have even more after that, but this one is hilarious. You guys, it's been, I think the last time you guys did the show was March 12th of 2020, right?
Yeah.
What did it feel
It was
like?
March 11th, actually, because March 12th,
Oh, yeah.
we didn't get to do a show.
So how did it feel to get back in the saddle, and what did you do to prepare for it? Because that's a whole year of not doing 8 shows a week. And there's a certain stamina that's built up by doing that over a period of time. So I will start with Patrina first.
Well, thankfully, they gave us a rehearsal period. That helped a lot. Uh, and I got very, very close to my treadmill in the weeks leading up to the show. And we were all bubbled together in this hotel, the cast, the crew, the film crew, all of us together. And even though I was on like the 8th or ninth floor, I took the stairs every time I could.
Is that true? I didn't realize
Yes.
that.
Every
Trina.
time I could take the stairs because I knew that as soon as we started running the show, I was going to need to have that fitness to be able to. Because there's a couple of times when I do like an exit and down underneath and up the other side and have to come out and immediately be not winded. And I've spent, a lot of pandemic time sitting on my butt. So I had to be ready for that.
Haven't we all?
Absolutely.
That spread from here to Texas. Jen?
Yes, I fortunately had a moment to rehearse on my own, and to just like Patrina, I started working with a trainer on Zoom and working on that cardio, trying to work on my voice. Although my sweet dog behind me here doesn't really care for the sound of my singing voice, so that was a little tricky, Carla. She just thinks something's terribly wrong. Watch this. Happy birthday to you. You see her? Concerned. So I had to be mindful about getting a babysitter for her and like finding a quiet place to rehearse before we came in. But the rehearsal process was awesome. We jumped right back on the wagon.
That was pure comedy right there. That was hilarious. Oh my God. And your voice is ridiculous. All of y'all, but you, Miss Thing, with them high notes. Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was less beer, more sit-ups was definitely the start. Just a little less, but less. Started doing that a little bit, but honestly, it was mostly just kind of getting back into singing again. Other than just in the car or in the shower, there wasn't a whole lot of that going on, and this one was going to be on film, so I think we all sort of thought, well, hold on now, we better get this together. So it was so a lot of that was just getting back into the idea of performing the show again, which is just. But to be honest, that's just so much fun. It was so much fun to dig back into the characters and just to get doing that again. It's just felt great. So it was a labor of love for sure.
And how about doing it in front of a live audience again? And now it's streaming, so everybody can see it everywhere. How you guys feeling about that?
Feel great about that. Feel fantastic. The fact that so many more people will get to see this now, and hopefully more hearts will be ignited as far as theater goes, right? Maybe we'll have some more theater makers. We'll have people who might not get to see some kind of theatrical event like this and be really, really inspired to join the theatrical community. That's what excites me, along with the fact that we're sharing a message of kindness and compassion during a time where we need to remember that that is accessible to all of us.
I think you said it the best. Oh, thank you guys so much. I'm so sorry I didn't see it on Broadway, but when I make a trip back to New York, I'm going to make my way back there and holler at y'all. Okay?
Right on. Thank you, Carla.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
You guys, this musical is so incredibly special because it reminds you the goodness that exists in humanity. And to just be a little more specific about what it's about, there were 7,000 passengers that were stranded on 9/11 during the terrorist attacks in a small town in Newfoundland, where they were housed and welcomed. And this was filmed live on stage at the Schoenfeld Theater in New York City. So they came out of quarantine really briefly to film this so that people, could get back into the swing of things. But there isn't any musical on Broadway that speaks loudly and pays more homage to Come From Away than to 9/11 and the terrorist attacks and those that we have lost and loved than Come From Away. So having said that, I get into a little bit about that with the director, Chris Ashley. So take a look and a listen with this interview with Chris. I need to know all about that chairography.
I love that.
Chairography. How did you guys arrive on that for the staging? And how did you arrive on that for the staging as opposed to, having sets slide in and out and that kind of thing?
So Kelly Devine, the choreographer, and I when we first did a workshop before we ever did a full production of this, we picked about 20 minutes of the show and we said, can we do this show with only 12 chairs and 2 tables and these 12 actors? How simple can we make it? And I think what we found is the simpler you make it, the more exciting it is. The more you trust the acting abilities of these amazing 12 people to transform and take you through the story, the better. It's fiendishly difficult for the 12 actors to like remember all the places that the chairs have to be a bus and a plane and a living room. And because the show moves so fast. But we really committed to it's going to be a simple theatrical way of telling the story.
I looked at that because I noticed, for coming from the theater, I know that there's little marks on the floor for every little place that the chairs have to go. And I was like, ooh, boy, that is a lot going on.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you one thing about that? So every time you've got a transition, when the first time we ever laid the show out, different actors would be like, I could take this chair and I could move that coat, and they would all kind of volunteer. And nobody volunteered more than Patrina, who's also a Newfoundlander and plays Bonnie. She would always say, I can do it. So she has the hardest track through that show. And every time a new person comes into Bonnie, they will develop an intense rage at Patrina for being so generous and such a Newfoundlander and always volunteering to do things.
That is hilarious because I know she also has that track where she's going down and under and back up quite a bit too.
Yes,
and hardly any time. Like there's a little light that's going on that tells people to get out of the way so that she can pass without any, bumping into folks and stuff backstage, right?
She is the James Brown of our show. She is the hardest working woman in show business.
I love you for calling her the James Brown of your show. She's going to love this when she sees it. And with 9/11 rolling around the corner, it's been 20, I can't even believe it's been 20 years now. How is that falling on you, especially having directed this particular show? And what is your strongest memory of that time?
So I was in New York during 9/11. It was the first day of rehearsals on a new show for me. And, I still have scars from that time. When I first started working on the show, I thought, wow, am I ready to unpack some of these feelings that I really haven't dealt with? And one of the things I love about our show is it doesn't take away those feelings. It doesn't heal them exactly, but it gives you another story to think about on that day of people behaving so well and taking care of each other. So I would say that this show has done a lot for me personally in terms of helping me put that day in perspective.
And how much did you learn from the unselfishness of these Canadians? Because I know that post 9/11, that was probably the only time in American history that New Yorkers were kind of, kind to one another because, you know what I mean? So how do you think that this is affecting you watching this other country be so kind within the confines of the show during that moment?
New Yorkers were so kind to each other in the month after 9/11. You'd be in the subway and people would say, are you okay? How you doing? Do you need anything? It gave me new appreciation for New Yorkers. But the way that the people of Newfoundland took care of these strangers just deposited in their small town, 7,000 of them, and fed them and housed them and really made a family with them. I hope that I would behave as well in a really terrible moment as they did. And here we are again in this moment of such division. And I think it's what was true 20 years ago is still true today, which is the way we're going to get through this is by taking care of each other.
And I think that is a perfect way to wrap this interview. Thank you so much, Christopher Ashley. I appreciate you. And good luck with reopening the show. Well, the show is reopened and it is 20 years later, y'all. Can you believe that it has been 20 years since 9/11? I don't know if you remember where you were, but I definitively remember where I was. My dad was working at the Pentagon as a driver, and my uncle was working there as a police officer. And I got that call when I was training for a marathon. I was running in Griffith Park and got that call, and I panicked because I didn't know if something had happened to my dad. I didn't know if he was okay. And thankfully, he had enough common sense to call my aunt to tell her that to tell me that he was okay. And I also had a girlfriend who lost her husband during that time, and she was pregnant with her second child at the time. And I'm happy to report that she did make her second child did get here. She's a grown woman in her 20s now. Both of the young ladies are in their 20s, and they are thriving and doing well, as is their mom. But 20 years later, people are still feeling the sting and effects of 9/11, and Come From Away is a beautiful reminder of the kindness of people in their hearts. I got one more interview for you from the castmates, and we talked about when you see it on Apple TV Plus, there's a lot of moving around of chairs. There is no set. The set is the people and these chairs that they move around. So I had to ask Christopher about that, because I'm like, what is up with the chairs? But anywho, listen to this interview that I had with DeLon Grant, Emily Walton, and her uncle, Jim Walton. Isn't that cute that they're in the same show? Here we go. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hello, Carla.
Oh, it took me 10 years to get to y'all, but here I am now. Hey. So I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked your cohorts. It has been a minute since y'all have been on stage. What did you do to prepare? Because, if you like me, my butt has spread from here to Texas. So I want, and 8 shows a week is no joke. Been there, done that. So what did y'all do to get back in shape? I'll start with DeLon first.
I gained, it was COVID 25 for me because I gained 25 pounds. So, before it was actually just moving my body a bunch. I had not been exercising. So I put down my glass of wine, I put on my running shoes, and I started there. But it was also diving into the script and starting to remember our show is really technical. Where to move, where to put this thing, and that person needs the thing that chair that you're putting down. So you better have it there by that point. So I felt a lot of pressure to do a little bit of homework before we even got to the rehearsal room. So I didn't let my compatriots down, and I wasn't the one dragging his feet behind because he watched all of Apple TV Plus and didn't do any homework.
I overstand. I want to talk about that chairography after Jim and my girl Emily answers this question.
For me, preparing was, I'm a bit OCD. I started going over lines early, so I knew I wanted to, I think we all pretty much were, I wanted to be off book on day one. Because I also wanted to get into the first rehearsal and be able to say what I needed to say and look at everybody. So I walk the streets and go over my lines. I've always done that. I wouldn't be surprised if DeLon and Emily have, when they're learning lines, a lot of actors walking down the street muttering. So, and going over the dialects too, because I speak in the Gander dialect and a British. So I don't have one line as an American, say. So I had to go over that. But it was so exciting to be going over it again. I have a purpose. So it was thrilling.
Doing a lot with them accents, and you got to play opposite my girl Sharon Wheatley. Her and I were in Avenue Q together.
Oh, is that right? Oh, I love Sharon.
Emily, what were you doing? Yes, we love Sharon.
Okay, so what I was doing was similar to DeLon, which was like going from a year and a half. Well, no, I didn't work out pre-pandemic either. From never working out in my life to then I was like, I have to get a personal trainer. So for like 2 months leading up to it, I was like, I'm going to work out 5 days a week. It was horrible. I don't even know if it did anything. But I also want to say, I feel, speaking just in terms of how our bodies have changed in the last year and a half, so many of us, and how they continue to change and evolve over the course of our lives, because that's what bodies do. I feel very lucky to be in a show that puts zero pressure on you to conform or look a certain way. Any pressure that I was feeling was completely self-imposed, and the team and our costume coordinator, she reached out to all of us and said, listen, if we need to get a size up in jeans, we'll get a size up in jeans, And so I felt really great going into it, knowing this isn't going to make or break the show if I've gained weight. And I need to just accept where I am right now. So that's just a little side note. But other than that,
beautiful, Emily.
Well, thanks, Uncle Jim. But I just think it's a cool thing. That was one of my favorite parts about seeing the show before I was a part of it, looking at the stage and going, oh man, it's real people with real bodies, and all of the women are wearing pants, which is just a cool thing I love about the show, that like there's not a skirt on that stage.
Yeah, I kind of love that too. Side note, loved that. And
Yes.
last question, real quick, because I have very little time. But
Sorry.
that chair, no, girl, that's all right.
I'm
It's
sorry.
fun. No. So that chairography, did y'all ever have a moment where somebody put that chair in the wrong place and that butt hit the floor instead of the back part of that chair?
I never had that happen, but
nobody's
go ahead,
butt
Joel.
has ever hit the floor because everyone is there. We all know, you know, if you mess that chair up, and everyone will either say it to each other on stage, but nobody's going to fall on the floor. We did have a chair break, though, and an actor fell, but that was nobody's
Wow.
fault.
Oh.
I'm sorry I wasn't in the show then. That
Yeah,
sounds
me
fun.
too.
I was in the audience to see that. That sounds hilarious. But anyway, that is my time. Y'all were delightful. Thank you so much.
Thank
And good
you.
luck when you go back to the show in real time with real people. And yeah, have a great time.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Carla.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Again, you guys, Come From Away is playing on Apple TV Plus right now. Now, you've heard me talk about this film called My Name is Polly Murray. I've talked about it a lot on this show. Polly Murray was a trans woman who ended up being a lawyer. She was one of the first Episcopal priests that was a woman of color. Like there's so many historical things about her. But and I've spoken to Julie Cohen on this show, who is the director of the piece. But the writer and producer of the piece is actually a sister, which makes me really happy because Polly Murray is a graduate of Howard University. Yes, I always talk about Howard University. So y'all can clown me all you want to, but HU, you know. Anyway, Talia Bridges McMahon is the writer and the producer of My Name is Polly Murray. It's going to be streaming on Amazon Prime Video. And I really want you guys to hear what she has to say about the film. I've spoken about it. I've reviewed it. You can go to Carla Renat, the curvyfilmcritic.com to see the written review there. And you can go to the other part of my YouTube channel to check out the interview with Julie Cohen. But right now, check out this interview. So I realized in doing a little research on you, I have been a fan of yours for quite some time. I saw Unbanned. I saw Through Our Eyes.
Oh, wow.
I saw the 90s, the 2000s. I was like, oh, okay. I know her. Okay. We're going to have a good little combo. Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, and I met Julie and Betsy one day on a rooftop while they were promoting RBG back in the day.
Oh, wow, great.
Yeah, so I'm really curious. They're wonderful women. So I'm curious to know how you guys ended up collaborating for My Name is Polly Murray.
So I also previously knew Betsy and Julie. We had collaborated on a project on groundbreaking women, but we were specifically profiling women who were living at that time. And so since then, they went off, they made RBG. And as you may know,
they left you behind. They were like, "Hi, girl, we're gonna go over here and make RBG. We're gonna talk to the bad Mama Jamma." I'm sorry, I'm being silly.
That's
sorry,
fine.
go ahead.
That's great. So when they made RBG, that is actually how they learned about Polly Murray's story. Polly Murray was so influential on Justice Ginsburg's work that when she mentioned Polly Murray, they thought, "Oh, that sounds like an interesting person," and they began researching and learned all that Polly had done. And they thought, wow, we should really be making a film. Our next film should be about Polly Murray. And then they reached out to me. And because we had worked together before, we knew that we could collaborate well together. And so after they ticked through all the things that Polly Murray had accomplished, I was definitely on board with making the film.
And I'm so glad that you were. I also know about you that you always tackle subjects and projects that people don't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to acknowledge it. They just don't. The series the two series that you did for CNN, the 90s and the 2000s, that's encompassing a decade and everything that's happening within that decade. Right. But these other projects that you did, they are not for the faint of heart. And if you're trying to live in a rabbit hole with your head down, you better run for cover because Blair is coming for you with her projects. Were you so overwhelmed by the amount of archives that Polly left behind? Because when they show that room in the film with all those tapes and diaries and just the plethora of material that she, who has the mindset to go, you know what, I'm just going to document everything?
at such an early age too. You know, Polly was not very old when this started happening. And so Polly did not have a lot of resources in life, but several people tell the story of Polly moving from place to place to place and like packing up all these boxes and like trucking them along. And, for us, it's overwhelming, but it's also a godsend. Without that, I don't know that we would have been able to make this film. And so we were so fortunate that Polly didn't just save speeches and poems and things like that, but Polly saved things that were so personal. Polly was a very private person. And so a lot of the published writings don't really get at Polly's personal interior life. Mm-hmm. And what we discovered in the archive is that there are so many letters to friends, so many years and years, decades of diary entries. And so that really allowed us to paint a multidimensional portrait of Polly Murray.
This is something that I saw on I think it might have been on your Twitter page, and it was an excerpt from a book that was written about Polly called A Personal and Political Life by Troy Saxby. Oh, yeah. And I want to get your thoughts on this quote, because I saw this. I'm like, I know you posted this for a reason, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. And I'm just going to do an excerpt of it. You share our songs, our contributions to the field of entertainment and music. You go wild over our dance orchestrations. You just love our good old spirituals. You quote our quaint philosophies in your poetry and literature. You think we're just grand in, I can't remember that, grand in something. And you resent our intelligence and our determination to also better ourselves. Or do you? What are your thoughts on that quote?
So, that's like iconic Polly, right? Polly, from a very young age, even as a child, could see the injustice of segregation. Polly grew up in the South and came from a very educated, very well-off, actually, family. And constantly hit up against so many limitations that were just based on race. Polly was a brilliant mind and spent a lifetime never really being able to access all opportunities just because of the body that Polly was born in. And so Polly dedicated a life to pointing out that hypocrisy, right? Polly was saying, you take these symbolic you take this symbolic part of us, but you are not taking us as complete people. You are not actually allowing us to flourish and integrate fully into this society. And Polly dedicated a life to basically pointing out that hypocrisy.
Yeah, she did. I was so, when I wrote the review for this, when I saw it at Sundance, or I may have seen it before that. You saw the review?
Yeah.
So when I wrote the review, I was so mad because I'm a Howard University graduate. Even as a student of Howard University, I didn't know who she was until I saw this documentary. I'm so tired of getting history taught to me through a film. I need for it to be taught to me in a classroom where it belongs. Right. But not only was she a HBCU grad, but she also was, I don't think she graduated from UNC Chapel Hill, did she?
Did not even get in.
Yeah, so and I'm bringing this up for this reason, because how many years later did UNC Chapel Hill come in the news again for the very same thing? Right. What the hell?
Right. No, and I think that for me, it's interesting to hear you say you were so angry, because I had the same response learning about Polly's story. And it's especially infuriating to know that this story is actually really timely, right? It's so many decades later, and we as a society are still grappling with these same issues. And it's incredibly frustrating. I can't even imagine. Polly was so optimistic, right? Polly kept thinking, if we just explain to these people this injustice that they are perpetrating, then they will stop. They will begin to change their ways. And so to pitch forward so many decades into the future and see that we're still having these exact same conversations, as you say, with some of the exact same institutions, it's maddening. It's maddening.
That blew my mind. And it also blew my mind when she said, there was something that she said when she talked about how people think that blacks are inherently inferior to whites and women
are inherently inferior to men. Right. Right.
And how we're living in a world where that's slowly but surely getting turned on its, well, at least one of them is slowly but surely getting turned on its head. You know, I am the curvy critic, and I shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah. I mean, Polly was one of the earliest people having a conversation about that, what we now call intersectionality, right? The idea that there are people who are Black women, in particular women of color, who are facing discrimination based on both gender and race. And while the language that Polly was using was a little bit different, Polly called it Jane Crow. It is still getting at that idea that we as a society have to address both of those things. And that was because, what Polly pointed out at a very, is that the civil rights movement was focused largely on Black men. And the women's rights movement was focused largely on white women. And Polly was saying, you have to do better. You have to actually talk about the discriminations that I am facing as a person who is viewed as a woman, viewed as a Black woman.
Absolutely. Well, I want to wrap this up by saying one of her quotes where she says, hope is a song in a weary throat. Yeah. And you guys are giving us hope by bringing her story and everything that encompasses the world and the life of Pauli Murray to the forefront. Thank you so much, Talaya. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. This was a pleasure.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
You guys, My Name is Pauli Murray is going to be streaming on Amazon Prime Video beginning September 17th. I highly suggest and encourage you to check that out. I just want to address something that Brandon said in the chat room. He was like, I was 5 years old when 9/11 happened. Well, then this has been an education for you. And there are so many documentaries out there for you to watch about those events. But having been, someone that was grown and living through that in real time, I'll never forget it. And I don't think any American that was here during that time will forget it, because it was a crazy time. All right. I have a couple of more things for you guys, and then I'm going to get into the TIFF. We're going to go a little bit longer on this version of the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata, because there's just so much to cover, and I just don't have enough time to cover it. But I'm going to try to make it quick and painless for you. So you guys know that I guest starred for 5 years on a show called Superstore, and two of my castmates were Jon Barinholtz and Lauren Ash. Well, Jon and his brother Ike Barinholtz have created and produced a show that is going to be streaming on Netflix called Chicago Party Aunt. It is outrageous. It's crazy. It is gut bucket funny. It is a mess, but I kind of loved it. But I sat down and had an opportunity to speak with Ike and his brother Jon, Lauren, and Rory O'Malley. So I'm going to throw this interview your way right now with these crazy fools. Who do I have first? I think I'm going to give you Jon and Ike first. So take a look and a listen to this interview about Chicago Party Aunt with Jon Barinholtz and Ike Barinholtz. Hi, boys.
Hey! I've been looking forward to this one for a long time.
You say that every time I talk to you, Jon. You're trying to be partial, but I'll take it.
I'll say this. I know you guys were on Superstore together. If this turns into some kind of like Superstore reunion interview and it's all about the good times, I'm walking. Okay? Well, forget about him. For about every Superstore question, I want a question about the Mindy Project.
Wait. See, you got my nose is red. Dang, Ike. Ooh, Lord. Okay, let me to get it together. All right, this is my first question out the gate. Since you coming for me, I'm gonna come for you. At one point, I think Jon's character says, I think it's time for sex o'clock. So I know both of y'all are married, and I know y'all got kids. How do you make sex o'clock work now that you have kids? Do you get real creative with that? Planning it, trying to even work it out.
I think at a certain point, like all people, you make it work, and it's easy. All you have to do is, a couple times a year, plan a small vacation around it, and No, I have no idea. I don't know how. I have no idea how.
I was like, where is this going?
I have no idea. If anyone knows, please tell me.
John, please save your brother.
I mean, I think like anything else, you just have to make time. It's as important as your morning coffee. If you're a coffee drinker,
which means you have to have it every morning, first thing.
Is that
and don't talk to me until I've had sex with my wife.
I can't stand y'all. Oh, y'all got me crying at 6 o'clock in the morning. Oh my God, I can't stand it. All right. So I know y'all are from Chicago. I'm from St. Louis. Have you ever sang the national anthem or done anything like that for a Chicago Cubs game?
I have sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" at Wrigley Field a couple times, and
you and Chris have that in common.
Yeah, I threw out a couple. I think I've thrown out 3 first pitches, and if you want to put it in baseball terms, I'm 0-3. 3-0 count, 3-0 count probably. One could maybe be a strike if it was like a little league game, but did I do great? No, but I don't think about it every night.
I should hope not. I really should hope not. But before we get up out of here, I know that at one point, you probably considered being a politician, and I don't know what you probably considered doing, John, in terms of acting, but I wonder if either one of you ever had a backup plan. Like if you were like, if this doesn't work out, I'm gonna go over here and do this over here.
Yeah, my backup plan was anything at all that would be able to have me live and exist. Always ready to pivot is my motto. No, I went to college for archaeology. And when I realized when I got there that archaeology doesn't mean what you see in the Indiana Jones movies, and it's very boring, I decided to go into acting so I can maybe one day play an archaeologist.
Okay, I did not know this about you, that you wanted to be an archaeologist. That is bananas. What about you, Ike?
My backup plan is to become a politician. If I completely fail at every single aspect in show business from here on out, my only choice is to become a politician. So let's not let that happen because I have some pretty crazy ideas. I would definitely work in the food service industry, I think, on some level. I don't know what. I've bussed tables, I've waited, I've worked in the kitchen. I've even hosted once, something in that area.
All right. Well, that is my time, y'all. Y'all made me laugh so hard. I love y'all. I love y'all to death. It's always a pleasure to talk to. And I got both of you this time. Usually I get you separately, but this was
you're the greatest. It's so good to see you.
It was good to see y'all too. Congrats on the show. Thanks for creating it. It was hella funny.
Oh, Carla, thank you so much. That's so nice of you to say.
No, John, I'll tell you, I don't say nothing just to be nice. I say it because I mean it.
He always says you're very mean. So this is.
I am not mean. I'm just truthful with an edge. Bye.
Bye, Carla. See you.
When I tell y'all that interview happened at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was half asleep with crust in my eyes trying to drink a cup of coffee, but I was so grateful to them for making me laugh. So let me just reiterate what the show is about. It's going to be streaming on Netflix. There's 8 episodes. It was created by John, and it follows Diane Dubrowski, who is always the life of the party, hence the title Chicago Party. And as I said, it was created by John, Katie Rich, and Chris Witsake, who I will have on the YouTube channel, the interview with Chris and Katie, because I just don't have enough time to do it here today. But right now, I'm going to give you guys the interview with the party auntie herself, Miss Lauren Ash and Mr. Rory O'Malley. Y'all know that name from Hamilton. Oops, I said the H word.
Oh my gosh, we look like we've been styled together, Carla.
I know, it totally looks like we planned this, but we totally didn't. Hi, Rory. Hey, Miss Thing. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Baby, this series had me hollering out loud because I think everybody knows a Diane, right?
100%, yes.
So who was like the Diane of Canada?
Oh my gosh.
Your part of Canada, because I know there's numerous ones.
Oh, there's so many. I think the big thing, and I said the exact same thing that you did when I first read the script. I was like, I know this woman. Like, she's an amalgamation of so many people. I feel like that we all know, and if you don't necessarily have this person in your life, you've encountered Diane's. You know what I mean? She is a very special type of lady, I think, which is amazing. I love her.
Yeah, she is. How about you, Rory?
Oh, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, with a single mom.
I know y'all got some in Cleveland.
Oh, we've got plenty. And I had a single mom, and I was raised by like a bunch of Dianes in Irish pubs across Cleveland. So,
oh, I love that.
That is hilarious. I know in my family, the person that kind of like brings everybody to life and is just crazy is my dad. Like, my dad walks in the room and it's just like an instant party. Do you have a relative that is that person for you? I'll start with Rory.
Yeah, my mom. My mom is like, my mom worked in an Irish pub and enjoyed time in an Irish pub. I literally went to Irish pubs as a kid, and that was my favorite place to be. So my 8th birthday party was at Patty's Pub in Cleveland, Ohio. So yeah, it's my mom. She's the leader of all of her friends and of our family. And like, I'm so lucky to have someone like that in my household, growing up as a kid.
I kind of love that you were in a pub at 8. What was your drink of choice at 8 years old?
They only let me have Shirley Temples. That's as far as it got for me, but I didn't even get like Shirley Temples until I was like 13, but I used to bus tables and everything. I wanted a job because my mom worked there. So I wanted to also earn money while I was there listening to Irish music. And that's kind of just the culture of, the Midwest. It's like,
I know, I'm from Missouri. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, everyone works really hard during the week. And at the end, on the weekend, you go to the pub and you have to know how to party, how to relax.
It's like a prerequisite to grow up in the Midwest, right?
Yeah.
How about you, Lauren?
Yeah.
Who's that person for you and your family?
Look, if I'm being honest, and I know this sounds loaded, but I think the answer is me.
I believe that.
There was more than a few times recording this show where I would be like, the line blurs sometimes. I think, when I realized I showed up to a record wearing a t-shirt that said dog, mother, wine lover, I realized that I was like, I can draw on parts of myself. Not that I would consider myself a full Diane. I don't, but I definitely relate in certain ways. So yeah, I would consider myself to be the one in the family that's the life of the party. I'm definitely the person that's going to say, let's get the round of shots going. And I feel like we have a kinship, Rory, because growing up in Canada, I feel like is a fairly similar experience. And I also had a single mom. So I feel like right off the bat, we're learning new things about each other already. And I'm loving this. This is nice.
Good.
Cool. What was that moment where y'all realized that when somebody addressed you, you realized, oh, I'm old. I am not 20 anymore.
Oh God. Daily. This happens to me daily, I feel like, anymore. So many things.
I'm in Hamilton, and I had to bring it up. But
of course you did. I wasn't gonna bring it up, but I'm gonna let you bring it up.
Please.
Oh man.
That show.
Yeah. But I'm the old man in Hamilton. I'm the oldest person in the cast, always, because they're these young dancers. And I told somebody in my cast recently, I said, you were so wonderful tonight. And they said, thank you. That means so much coming from you. I studied you in school. What? I said, what is that? What does that mean? And how dare you?
And how dare you? Rude.
Like, so nice, but what did you study? I didn't, it was very sweet. And also I got my cane and my walker and went back to my dressing room and cried.
And I think that is the perfect way to end this interview, talking about your cane and your walker. It was wonderful to see you both again. Thank you so, so much.
You too.
Bye.
Good to see you, Carla.
Baby, them fools had me cracking up and crying at 8 o'clock in the morning. Again, y'all, Chicago Chicago Party On is playing on Netflix, and it stars Ike and John Barinholtz, Lauren Ash, and Rory O'Malley, among others. And it is created along with John by Katie Ash. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm still laughing at them. They're crazy. All right. So let's get into this Toronto International Film Festival before I go. I have seen a plethora of films, and I'm going to save the interview about Dear Evan Hansen last, but I did see Dear Evan Hansen. I saw a documentary from Stanley Nelson called Attica about the uprising of the prison there. It was eye-opening. It's a wonderful documentary. It's produced by HBO Films, and it'll be coming your way sooner than later. Excuse me. I saw Violet, which is which is directed by Justine Bateman and stars Olivia Munn, who just announced that she's going to have a little nugget. So congratulations, Olivia. I've also seen the Dionne Warwick documentary. Again, mind blown, because Dionne Warwick has had so many things happen in her life. She was a major activist when it came to the AIDS pandemic. She stepped up and she spoke up and she spoke out. And I was like, had no idea that Dionne Warwick was a bad mamma jamma like that. I did have the opportunity to sing backup for her once and was absolutely terrified, but it went off without a hitch. I'll tell y'all about that day some other time. I also saw this beautiful film called The Gravedigger's Wife. Oh my God. It was the most beautiful film I'd ever seen. It really, it struck me to my core. I'm going to see tonight, because the festival, like I said, goes through the 18th. I'm going to see, I saw Listening to Kenny G, a documentary about Kenny G. Again, learned some things about Kenny G that I didn't know. His film is directed by Penny Lane. And I learned that Kenny G plays golf. I learned that Kenny G had 2 sons. And I also learned that Kenny G only has 1 Grammy. I don't know why I was sitting over here thinking Kenny G had like 5,000 Grammys. My man got 1 Grammy. And I did not realize that he is such a polarizing, smooth jazz artist. People either love him or hate him, which they talk about all of that in this documentary. I'm going to watch Becoming Cousteau. I watched The Starling, that stars, my girl, Melissa McCarthy. I never let her down. I always talk about her stuff. And, this one was no different. I think this film premiered last night, but I watched, and it's going to be on Netflix. I watched it. It's a beautiful story. It's not a story that we haven't seen before, but it's a different twist on a story that we haven't seen before. It's a family, not a family, but a husband and wife who are experiencing the loss of their child, and the way that each one of them processes it is really interesting, and it's heartbreaking it's just, it was a lot. There's a film that I'm going to see called The Wheel. I'm going to watch The Electrical Life of Louis Wayne. Next week, I'm going to talk about, next week I'll talk about The Mad Women's Ball. I'm seeing Burning. I'll talk about the Julia Child documentary, the Oscar Peterson short documentary. The Oscar Peterson documentary I saw. I'm going to see a documentary about Alanis Morissette called Jagged. So many films, so little time. But I saw all of those films and a plethora more. But I want to talk about Dear Evan Hansen before we get out of here. And this will be the last film that I'm going to talk about and review today and have an interview for. Dear Evan Hansen is a show that was on Broadway. And it's very polarizing. This is a film adaptation of this show that won Tony and Grammy Awards. It's about Evan Hansen, a high school young man, senior to be specific, who suffers from social anxiety disorder. And this is his journey of self-discovery and acceptance following the suicide of a fellow classmate. The reviews for this film have come out, and they have been horrible at best. Critics went all the way in. Now, I'm somebody that did not see it on Broadway. I did not see it on the stage. So my first time having this Dear Evan Hansen experience is through this film adaptation, which is directed by Stephen Chbosky and is written by Stephen Levinson. And it's going to be in theaters by Universal Pictures. This is the thing. This is what I got from it. I got that this is a very powerful film that shows how polarizing social media can be, how social media can boost people up and tear them down just as quickly as they boost them up. It's a story that tells a message about lying. It's a story that tells a message about suicide. It's a story about a young man with a social disorder who is freaking out over the fact that in order to try to give this family some comfort over the loss of their son, he tells a lie. Was it right for him to tell the lie? No, it wasn't right for him to tell the lie. But he was doing what he thought was best, and the lie just got bigger and bigger and bigger until it couldn't be contained anymore, and he eventually had to just break down and tell the truth. The music in this show is bananas. The things that Ben Platt has to sing, the opening number alone will just blow your wig, but it'll blow your wig off your head if you're wearing a wig. And if you got a hairpiece, it'll knock it right off. It'll take the glue right off. But Ben Platt deserved every bit of that Tony and Grammy that he won doing the role. He is the only, I believe, the only original cast member in the film. I could be wrong on that, but he is the only original cast member in the film. It's a lot of stunt casting going on. They got Julianne Moore playing Heidi Hansen. They got Caitlin Dever playing Zoe Murphy. They have Amy Adams playing Cynthia Murphy. They have Danny Pino playing Larry. They have Amanda Stenberg playing Alana. And they have Colton Ryan, who plays Connor. Connor is the young man who kills himself, and he is the brother of Caitlin Dever's character. Caitlin Dever and Ben Platt and Amanda Stenberg made this movie for me. I dug it. I liked it. And I like the message that it has to give. And let's face it, most of the time when they adapt a film from a Broadway musical to the film, they always mess it up. There's always something that people go, well, I like this in the musical better. Or it happens, and hardly ever do they use the original people when they do it. But they at least had the presence of mind to use the leading man who actually won the Tony Award for the role and didn't stunt cast that. And thank goodness that they did, because he holds his own. This is the first time Julianne Moore is singing, and she does a great job. First time Caitlin Dever singing, does a great job. Amy Adams is no stranger to singing. We saw her singing in a Disney film a little while ago, which is how we were all introduced to her. Amanda Stenberg is singing. Amanda Stenberg is a singer, so she's doing her thing. I say all of this to say this. I enjoyed Dear Evan Hansen. It opened the Toronto International Film Festival. It was met with mixed to terrible reviews, but the curvy critic says it was all right with me. And y'all know I shoot straight from the hip. So having said that, I talked a little bit I participated in a round table prior to the Toronto Film Festival where I had an opportunity to talk to Stephen Chbosky and Stephen Levinson about the show and adapting it. So here we go. Hey, so I know both of you have done musicals before, and I'm just wondering, what is it about doing musicals and adapting them to the big screen that keeps you creatively stimulated?
Well, I will say this is the third one I've done. The first as a director. I am creatively stimulated. I love the form. I love musicals and movie musicals. It is also, in my opinion, probably the most challenging thing you could do. Musicals are merciless. If they don't work, they don't work. There's not a lot of gray. You know, it's kind of like it either hit or it missed. And that is very challenging and very terrifying, but ultimately exhilarating, because when a show is this well written, I don't know, I just kind of jump at the chance. That's how I feel about it. What do you think, Stephen?
For me, musicals in general, there's just something, as a writer, you spend all this time crafting a character and imagining them into being. And it's always thrilling when an actor comes in and inhabits that role for the first time and it becomes real. But there's something even more thrilling and bizarre about somebody writing a song for that character that you've dreamed up. Like, you think you know this character so well, and suddenly they're singing, and there's something about that collaborative process that's just thrilling, where you're creating this thing that you single-handedly couldn't create. I just find that I go back for that, like, in spite of all of the difficulties. That's really the thing that I return to.
Yeah, I will say that is true in terms when I think about writing a novel, right? Just you alone in a room, and then this is the most collaborative thing I've ever done, bar none. And you're right, it makes it very special.
Y'all got me. Y'all got me good. I boohooed and was in the ugly cry, and I didn't see this on stage. But I'm a Broadway musical theater baby. But y'all got me good. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And I meant that. I meant that. They got me, and I did cry, and it was touching to me, and I did enjoy it. So that is all the interviews. Let me just recap. So Come From Away is currently streaming on Apple TV Plus. My Name is Polly Murray is streaming on Amazon Prime Video. Chicago Party Aunt is streaming on Netflix, or will be streaming on Netflix. And Dear Evan Hansen is coming to a theater near you. But in the meantime, it has opened up and is being reviewed by critics all over the world at the Toronto International Film Festival. Now, having said that, hold up, wait a minute now, y'all. I got to tell y'all something. I got some special guests for you. Now, I said it before, but I'm going to say it again. I got Miss Tammy Faye herself. Miss Jessica Chastain is going to come here next week for the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. And I have Justin Chon and Alicia Vikander from Blue Bayou. And we're going to talk about that. I'm also going to talk about these films that are coming out called bestsellers. Wait a minute, I missed it. There we go. We're also going to talk about bestsellers. I'm going to review Blue Bayou. I'm going to review, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to review The Eyes of Tammy Faye. And I think I'm going to review The Prisoners of Ghostland. I may talk about The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain, but I know for sure that Blue Bayou and The Eyes of Tammy Faye I will talk about next week, in addition to having those guests. So thank you all for hanging in there for me for almost a full hour. Oh my goodness, so sorry to have taken up so much of your time, but there was a lot of information to disseminate, a lot of interviews that I wanted to bring your way. Again, if you are joining me for the first time, please give me a big old thumbs up to let me know that you were here. Subscribe to the channel. And what we do here at the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata is we review films and we talk to talent above and below the line in the film industry. I want to thank those that joined me live today, Brandon, Kenneth Williams, and I saw a couple of other people pop in and out. So thank you all for coming. And yes, Brandon, Chicago Party Aunt is really funny, and you are really going to enjoy it. It's a little crass, it's a little crazy, but you're gonna like it. So you guys, until the next time, have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful week. Oh, and I also want to tell you one more thing. So the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata will not be airing on Sundays up through November 1st. Beginning September 20th, which I believe is next Monday, I will be airing it on Monday. It'll be airing on Monday evenings. And I'm not sure if I'm going to air it at 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock. It depends on the time difference and my little producer. But I will make sure that I post it in my social media, particularly on my Twitter and Instagram pages, so that you know every film that I always talk about here, there is a written version of it on my website, The Curvy Film Critic with Carla Renata. And I will see you guys next week. So until the next time, love, peace, and hair grease, y'all. Deuces.